Welcome to Reframing the Membrane, Crossing Boundaries, where we advocate for actionable solutions for improving overall mental health and wellness by examining the challenges and resources affecting people and access to care. Each episode takes listeners through lived experiences and evidence-based research, providing practical strategies to build resilience and advocate for mind, body, and spirit well-being. Thank you for joining us as we engage with the community, health professionals, advocates, and individuals sharing their experiences. Before we get started, the content of this production may be emotionally challenging. The production will aim to inform you in advance when potentially activating material will be filmed or discussed. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Capri. Today we're diving into the art and science of regulating our nervous system, the very system that governs our stress, our energy, and our emotional well-being. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by anxiety, exhausted by constant stress, or stuck in a loop of worry, then this episode is for you. Imagine waking up on a morning when you already feel on edge. Your heart races even before you've had your morning coffee. Your mind is cluttered with endless what-ifs, and by mid-morning, you're snapping at colleagues or simply feeling shut down. The state of being is what we call nervous system dysregulation. Our body has some primary modes. The fight, flight, freeze mode. So when everything is heightened and our senses are alert, or in the freeze state when we feel numb or disconnected, sometimes we just want to run away. In the modern world, we face a constant barrage of stressors, from busy schedules to relentless news cycles, social pressures, and even lingering echoes of past trauma. Our nervous system, designed for survival in simpler times, can become perpetually overactive or conversely just shut down. This dysregulation not only affects our mood and energy, but it also plays a role in how we think, relate, and even sleep. Today, we're going to see how recognizing these patterns can help us to reclaim some balance. When life gets stressful, our minds automatically engage in defense mechanisms, unconscious strategies meant to shield us from emotional pain. However, while these defenses can protect us in the short term, over time, they can trap us in unhelpful cycles. Let's talk through some of these common defense mechanisms and see how they can show up in our daily lives. When life gets stressful, our minds automatically engage defense mechanisms, which are unconscious strategies meant to shield us from emotional pain. However, while these defenses can protect us in the short term, over time they can trap us in unhelpful cycles. So I want to walk through some of the common defense mechanisms and see how they might show up in our daily lives. Starting with acting out. Sometimes, instead of expressing our feelings, we act them out. You might throw a temper tantrum or engage in impulsive behavior like excessive drinking or even promiscuity, without understanding that deep down you're seeking attention or trying to mask loneliness. Altruism, in other cases, we might immerse ourselves in helping others to avoid facing our own pain. While caring for others is wonderful, excessive altruism can sometimes be a way to distract ourselves from our own emotional struggles. We often plan for future discomfort, sometimes spending so much time worrying about what might happen that we never truly enjoy the present. This realistic planning can become excessive and lead to chronic anxiety. And many of us are in denial. At times, we simply refuse to accept that there's a problem. I'm fine becomes a mantra, even when deep inside we know that something is off, like an alcoholic who won't admit that drinking is affecting their life. And then there's displacement. When we're upset, we might shift our anger towards someone else, say a stressed out parent yelling at a child, for example, when the real source of frustration is elsewhere. Then there's dissociation. Sometimes our minds essentially check out. You might find yourself daydreaming excessively or feeling like you're watching life from a distance, disconnected from the present. In other cases, we have a distorted outlook. We simply reshape reality to fit our internal needs. For example, you might convince yourself that everyone dislikes you to avoid the risk of rejection, even if that isn't true. And escaping into a fantasy world can be a way to temporarily resolve conflicts in your inner and outer world. Excessive daydreaming, though, can sometimes keep you from facing real issues. We might use humor to explore or mask unpleasant emotions, making light of serious issues as a way to avoid addressing them directly. And sometimes turning negative emotions into physical pain or illness is another defense, where the focus shifts from the emotional hurt to worrying about physical symptoms. Other times, we unconsciously choose to see someone as perfect, often as a way to avoid the risk of real messy relationships or rejection. This is idolization. And sometimes we model our behavior on someone else, adopting their traits in an attempt to feel secure or accepted. Instead of feeling our emotions, we might dive into facts and theories, avoiding the actual experience of our feelings by focusing solely on the intellectual side of a situation. An introjection is where we may identify so deeply with an idea or object that it becomes part of our identity. This can happen when we try to fill an emotional void with something external. And isolation. At times, we separate our feelings from the events that cause them, describing situations in a cold, detached way without any emotional response. And many of us all too well know passive aggression. Instead of confronting issues directly, we may express our anger indirectly, appearing compliant on the surface while harboring resentment. We might attribute our own unwanted thoughts or feelings to someone else in projection. For example, if you're feeling jealous, you might insist that others are the ones who are jealous of you. And then rationalization, creating logical excuses to justify our behavior, like convincing ourselves that working without sleep is normal, even when it isn't suitable. Sometimes we act in ways that are the exact opposite of what we feel. For example, you might go out of your way to be overly kind to someone you actually dislike as a way to counteract your true feelings. And under extreme stress, we may revert to childlike behavior, throwing tantrums or seeking comfort in ways that are not typical for our age. Repression is when painful thoughts are pushed out of our conscious awareness, only to resurface later in unexpected ways. So, for an example, an individual that's abused as a child represses feelings and memories, so the feelings and memories no longer remain in the conscious memory. The abuse continues to affect the individual's behavior and relationships. And finally, we might channel our negative urges into something socially acceptable, like turning anger into a rigorous workout or redirecting destructive impulses into creative endeavors. We call this sublimation. And another example of this is when an individual redirects murder impulses, for example, and becomes a surgeon. So each of these mechanisms work as a sort of mental defense, helping us cope with discomfort in the short term. However, if we rely on them too heavily, they can prevent us from truly processing our emotions and finding lasting calm. Now that we have laid out the ways that our minds protect us, often to our detriment, let's talk about what we can do to actually regulate our nervous system. I want to remind you, if you're interested in the details of breathwork or sensory grounding, check out our previous episodes. The links are in the show notes. Those techniques are foundational, and today we'll build on them. Here are a few key strategies. As mentioned before, deep intentional breathing, like the 4-7-8 method, activates your body's relaxation response. When your heart races or your mind is overwhelmed, slowing your breath can signal your body to calm down. The 5-4-3-2-1 method is a sensory grounding method that helps bring your focus back to the present moment by engaging all your senses, interrupting those cycles of anxious thought. And movement. Sometimes when you're stuck in stress, your body needs an outlet. Gentle movement, whether it's stretching, walking, or a few yoga poses, can help release the tension that's building up. But there's another critical factor that supports all of these tools: sleep. Sleep is often overlooked in our quest to manage stress, but it plays an essential role in resetting our nervous system. After just 24 hours without sleep, your body's performance declines sharply, similar to having a high blood alcohol concentration. After 36 hours or so, stress hormones surge, keeping you stuck in that fight or flight mode and raising your risk of inflammation and high blood pressure. When you get quality sleep, your body does 3 key things. It allows your sympathetic nervous system to rest. It lowers cortisol levels, giving your body a break from chronic stress. And it lets your muscles relax and repair, which helps reduce overall tension. To support this, focus on good sleep hygiene. I'll link the episode to our sleep hygiene discussion in the show notes. You want to stick to a consistent sleep schedule. Avoid screens for at least 30 minutes before bed. Create a cool, dark, and quiet environment, and limit caffeine and alcohol consumption before bedtime. For more details on sleep hygiene, check out our show notes. We've linked to additional resources and exercises in the notes. You can also text the show. Before we go, let's practice a brief exercise to help reset your nervous system. If you're able to, find a quiet space. Close your eyes if you're safe and comfortable to do so, and take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, holding it for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. Again, take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, holding it for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. Focus on your body. Notice your feet on the ground, the weight of your body supported by the chair or the floor. Allow your shoulders to relax. Let your jaw unclench. Release any tension you're holding. Visualize a gentle wave of calm sweeping through as you breathe out through your mouth. Repeat this for about 30 seconds, and as you do, silently affirm, I am safe, I am present, I release stress. Even a short practice like this can shift your nervous system from dysregulation to a more balanced state. Regulating your nervous system isn't about making huge changes overnight. It's about small, consistent practices that build a healthier baseline over time. Today, we've talked about the stress response, defense mechanisms that keep us stuck, practical tools like breathwork and movement, and the crucial role of sleep in resetting our system. Your challenge is simple. Throughout your day, notice when you're falling into old patterns, whether it's denial, intellectualization, or even acting out, and gently bring your awareness back to the present using one of the tools. In our next episode, we'll continue our discussion exploring why anxiety arises, how it affects us, mind, body, and spirit, and what you can do to continue to rewire your stress response. Thank you for listening today to Reframing the Membrane. Again, I'm your host, Capri, and I want you to take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. Be gentle with yourself, and remember, balance is built one small step at a time.